When people see me here, they probably say, low-key old white guy, talks about nothing but politics, got some good points, he's all right. But you see, that wouldn't be an accurate portrayal of who I really am. Much more than that. You see, at 60 years old, I look back on a pretty diverse career. I've done a lot of different things. Many of them were very interesting. Got a lot of stories. So I thought I'd see about expanding that a bit. For example, I spent a lot of time as a news and sports reporter. I talked to a lot of famous people. I mean, people like Muhammad Ali, Pete Rose, O.J. Simpson before he killed anybody, Nelson Rockefeller when he was vice president of the United States. Yeah, there's some interesting stories there. Some are touching and some are fucking nuts. And then we move ahead a little bit, and during the 80s, I worked in the music business. I was in Minneapolis. I owned a recording studio directly across the street from the now famed First Avenue. Now remember, the 80s was the explosion of Prince in Minneapolis and the emergence of the Minneapolis sound. In the early to late 80s, that town was fucking crazy. A lot of things were going on. Now, as somebody who owned a recording studio, I also got into representing artists and talking to people in New York and talking to people in LA. And I knew a lot of the famous people that came out of that era. And there's some interesting stories there. But it's the people that flocked to Minnesota that never made it. The weirdos, the crazies, the nutcases. That's where the fucking stories are. And I'm going to tell you some of them. But today, I'm going to go back in time to 1977. This is a sports story. I was covering the Minnesota Twins baseball team. Now, in 77, I was all of 17 years old, so I was a fucking man. But one of my jobs was to cover the Minnesota Twins, and I would get a pass to go to every game, every home game. And that pass got me into the press booth to watch the game and report on it. But it also got me a pass to go on the field prior to the start of the game, during batting practice. And a lot of reporters have access to that. But I'm 17. This is a fucking decent job. So I go out on the field. I got other reporters that I know that are out there. And all these famous people are walking around, famous baseball players. And on this day, the Minnesota Twins are playing the New York Yankees. Now, what you have to remember about that summer day in 1977, it was the beginning of an amazing year for the New York Yankees and New York as a town. I don't know if you ever saw the miniseries Bronx Burning. Great miniseries. And it was about this era. Now, in 1977, of course, New York had the big blackout. They had Son of Sam going crazy. And that was the year the New York Yankees won the World Series. It was a tumultuous year for the New York Yankees. So anyway, I'm on the field. I'm looking around. There's Rod Carew from the Twins. There's Reggie Jackson, Chris Chambliss, all these famous people. But they're all doing something, and I can't really talk to them. But I walk by the dugout, the visitors' dugout, and there's Billy Martin, the famed manager of the New York Yankees, sitting on the bench all by himself. Now, what you have to understand is that Billy Martin was once the manager of the Minnesota Twins, too. Didn't know him then, as I was too young. But he was sitting on the bench in the visitors' dugout all by himself. And so, at that time in my life, I was pretty bold and pretty cocky, actually pretty much like I am now. And I walk by the dugout and say, Mr. Martin, do you mind if I ask you a few questions? And I thought I'd get pushed away and all that stuff, but he looked at me and goes, sure, kid, come on down. So I walk down the steps in the dugout, sit right next to Billy Martin. He's smiling. He looks like a happy uncle I might have had, and he was friendly as hell. Now, I knew this guy had some issues with the press, and he could lose it at any moment. But I thought, I got a video, I got a tape running. If he does lose it, that'll be good for radio. So I'm sitting talking to him. We're talking baseball. We're talking hitting. We're talking fielding. We're talking about the standings. We're talking about relief pitching. And this guy couldn't be nicer. It's like we were becoming best friends. I'm the 17-year-old kid who really is nobody. This is big-time Billy Martin, and he's being buddies with me. That's fucking awesome. So we keep talking and keep talking. But in that year, you have to remember, there was a lot of news in the papers that Billy Martin was having a feud with George Steinbrenner, the owner of the New York Yankees, and Reggie Jackson, the star of the New York Yankees. They were fighting, and it was a horrible situation for the Yankees and the manager and everybody involved. So as being 17 and a hard-hitting journalist, I gotta ask. I gotta ask. I mean, if you're sitting down with Billy Martin, at some point you gotta ask the hard questions. And yes, I'm only 17, but I'm hoping to be a big star in the media. And if I want to be a big star, I gotta take a chance. So I do. And I said, so Mr. Martin, I understand that having a little troubles with George Steinbrenner, not getting along too well. Now I'm thinking, he's going to lose his shit, yell at me, and kick me out of the dugout. But he doesn't do that. So I said, so what's the deal with you and George? You're not getting along. He looks at me and he says, George fucking Steinbrenner? Fucking George fucking Steinbrenner is the fucking best fucking owner in all of Major League Baseball. I fucking love George Steinbrenner. Being a sharp kid, I immediately thought, oh, I see what he's doing. He's ruining my interview. Okay, let's do this. So then I say, well, you're not really getting along with Reggie Jackson. There's a lot of heat. You're bumping heads. How do you run a team like that? How do you feel about Reggie Jackson? Reggie fucking Jackson is the fucking greatest baseball that ever fucking lived. We are fucking lucky to have him on the fucking New York fucking Yankees. Okay, you're sticking with that. You're just going to destroy the whole interview. So I'm kind of defeated there, and I'm thinking, God, he screwed my interview. I can't really run it. What am I going to do? And I get up. I said, all right, thank you, Mr. Martin. And he's got a smirk on his face, and he says, no problem, kid. Good luck. Well, now that pissed me off, because he not only kicked my ass, now he's rubbing my face in it. So as I'm walking out, I'm thinking, I'm 17. I'm a powerful media guy. Nah, I got to do something about this. So I do. I go back to the radio station. And I decide I'm going to meticulously cut out every swear word and replace it with a beep and play that goddamn thing just to embarrass them and let them know who's boss. You can't do this to me. I'm going to embarrass you in the public. So I did that. I put it on the air. I'm thinking, all right, I did it. 3 minutes later, my boss comes in and goes, what the fuck are you doing? What is that bullshit? I told him the story. I told him what I had to do. He goes, that's fucking stupid. Do not fucking do that. Get that off the air. I almost got fired over that. And I learned a lesson that I heard later in my life. I had this young, beautiful little secretary, and she said, Mike, you can't run with the big dogs if you're going to piss with the puppies. Thanks for joining me on Rational Boomer.